She's a transnational mother scholar, TEDx speaker, and multi-awarded winning researcher, author and educational leader, a full professor at Nord University, Norway. Anna specializes in demystifying research using innovative art-based approaches to cultivate awareness, connection, collaboration, and community alliances, promoting justice-centered praxis. So, as I mentioned, for the next 45 minutes, you will be pleased to hear a very known author, Anna CohenMiller. Anna, the floor is yours.
Okay, hello everyone. Let me see, we will start. Okay, so you can see that, yeah? So thank you so much for being here. The conference is an incredible space to be. I guess I can't move around too much. I was gonna try to come this way a little bit so I can see y'all and engage a bit more. And I'm going to be starting actually today in a bit of a non-traditional format. And so I'm going to invite you into an exercise. And don't worry, I will lead you through it. It's very simple. This is a research and pedagogical practice, a contemplative practice. So we're going to do a brain dump. Has anyone here heard of a brain dump? Maybe? No? No hands, right? So I'm going to be asking you to do hands at different points. So a brain dump, this is literally getting the things off of your brain and out. And so if you have paper, I have paper. Don't know if you have paper or your phone. I'm going to ask you to take it out. Or your computer, you can use that. But I want you to literally write. And you can write in any language. You can, this is just for you. It can be notes, it can be bullet points. The only rule is that you write nonstop. We're going to do this for 2 minutes. Usually in classes, I like to also add music to the background. We can set an atmosphere. Or when I start other workshops, this is also a way to start and to just get things off of our mind. So again, I'm going to literally set a timer for 2 minutes. So you have your pen, I'm going to do it, and we're going to write. And so even if you're writing, I don't know what to write, in whatever language, that's okay. All right, let's go ahead and go. Okay. That was 2 minutes. Thank you so much. Now, so welcome back. Welcome back from the contemplative inquiry. This was a research practice I mentioned. I will bring it up again later. It's also a pedagogical practice. Thank you so much to Dr. Gianina, Petre, and the organizing committee for the Adventus International Conference, Education, Bible, and Society, Contemporary Innovations, Challenges, and Opportunities for this invitation to be here. So, as was mentioned, I'm Professor Anna CohenMiller, and I am representing Nord University in Norway, but my background's a little more complex, and I'll get into that in a bit as well. So in this session, we're going to go on a journey together, and I say session because I'm going to be engaging you, as I was saying, with hands or with calling out at different points. And this session is a way to bring together research, theory, pedagogy, and ourselves. We're going to think about the ways in which equity and inclusion and justice can be embedded within research, in particular within qualitative research, across disciplines, education, theology, society, and how we can learn to grow throughout our own lives. So, are y'all ready? Yeah! All right, you're ready, you're here, you're present. Great. So what comes to mind when you think of a researcher? What words or ideas? Say it again? Studying? Okay, study. Great. What else? Problems. Ideas. I don't know if I can add this. I don't think I can right there. Ideas, problems, solutions. Intellectually curious. Wonderful. Anything else? What was that? Questions. Great. Okay, these are all fabulous, right? This is what comes to mind for you. Here are some other ideas that have came to my mind, to students' minds, exploring, creating, working with others, collaborating, finding solutions, facing challenges, data, methods, instruments, qualitative, words, experiences, numbers, quantitative, arts, theory, and the list can go on and on. So, do you consider yourself a researcher? Raise your hand if yes. Oh, no? Do you want to be a researcher? Yes? The hands are like this. So is that just like a little bit, or is it a lot of it? It's a lot? Yeah? Okay. So these images are recent textbooks that I've written, all founded on the ideas of equity and inclusion. Here's the latest one. Right? So hearing the voices of people, those who have been excluded, and how researchers, we can think, and leaders can work to have those voices heard. And so those voices, it can be from all types of people. I'm sure you can think of people around the world, in your community, in your classrooms. Who's heard the most? Who speaks up the most? Who speaks up the least? Who has space to speak? Who's allowed and given the floor? As I said, whether, again, in a classroom or in a space, in politics, in a university, in a country, in the world. So my work focuses on encouraging and empowering others in their research and practice to embed these ideas of equity, inclusion, and justice throughout their work. And when we think of justice, it can be social justice, economic justice, environmental justice, human rights. These ideas all connect together. So as a key part of this, it's about becoming critically self-reflective, right? Thinking for ourselves, well, you go out and do a research study, or you teach in a class, or you give a sermon, and you think to yourself, am I connecting with people enough? I don't know. I can't answer it for you. You have to think for yourself, right? You have to self-reflect and see, well, how did this feel? Was I engaging in an ethical way with whichever community I'm working with? You have to think for yourself. Yeah, there are some checklists, right, for sure, and there's ethics boards, and we need those. But beyond that, you have to continually, critically self-reflect for ourselves to see, how do I feel myself as a person and as I move out into the world? So I'm going to be going through many of these slides quickly. Let's see if I can, as I say that, then they don't move quickly. So I can talk about positionality. So who has heard the word positionality? I see one hand. Any others? So positionality. All right, we'll get into this more. So on a professional level, right, so this tells you who I am. Okay, these little dots and names and, different spaces, they then show a bit of the folks that I've worked with, the collaborations, the grants, the research that I'm connected with. You know where Spain is. I'm sure you know where Romania is. Do you know where Norway is? Do you know where Kazakhstan is? Maybe. I'll show you circles. There you go. Right? So you go over towards China. And I'll explain about Kazakhstan soon. So positionality then on a personal level. So to back up and tell you a bit more about myself and where I developed an equity and inclusion lens for research in teaching others and developing the field of research methods, I can look further into myself, into my positionality. My kids were both born in the United States, and soon after, we moved out of the country. We moved to Kazakhstan, where I was recruited as one of the first faculty cohorts to build the university graduate school of education. And with the development of the grad school, as important was my life as a mother and a community member. And I am a mother scholar. So you heard this in the introduction. I then use this term mother scholar to identify as both this connection between being a mother and scholar. What's important about that, and this is then where you can connect it also to research. So a mother scholar, combining the identity of being a mother and also a scholar, recognizes that in many places around the world, that's a huge advocacy and actually something a bit dangerous for some mothers to identify as. In the United States, if you identify as a mother when you're in academia, you're considered less than. Before you had a child, if you're not in your office, you are assumed you are out working. Okay, she's doing some work. Once then you have a child, where is she? I don't know, she's probably at home. She's probably taking care of her kids. It's a difference in tone, it's a difference in mentality. If a man becomes a father, if he's out of the office, it's still assumed, he's probably working, he's doing something important. So I started this project, and this came out of my doctoral research, my thesis or dissertation, depending on your terminology, where I studied graduate student mothers in academia because I saw that this was missing, their voices were missing. They were not included in the literature. And what they said, both in the United States and then as I continued my work, is that they don't know. You looked around, you didn't know, is she a mother also? Did she make her way through academia, through higher education? Who can I talk to when I struggle? Or is this something just for myself? Who could I stand up and say, for instance, there's a meeting that's taking place at exactly the same time that I need to pick up my child from wherever? Well, as a young woman, as a mother, as a graduate student, you might not feel like you have much power to say, can we just shift this by an hour? Right? Or maybe even a few minutes would be enough. But if you know people with power, if you know other people who also experience the same thing, then you could come together and to even say, here, we would like to kindly request this, or somebody could speak on your behalf. So this is then a way forward. This is a website. It is still up and showcases women throughout the world who are mothers and scholars throughout the entire pipeline. They say from the very beginning, whether from bachelor students all the way up to emeritus, those who have retired and have moved on. Scholarly publications came out of this, many, and they continue to be published. The latest one is from Oxford Bibliographies. This is one of the world's top publishers talking about various different topics and definitions. It's about mother scholars and the latest research. Do you notice that there's two that say TQR? Yeah? You see it or no? Yes, okay, you see. All right, so it's not a mistake that says TQR. So TQR is one journal. It's called the Qualitative Report. I've published there more than twice, but the reason that I have the two there is just to emphasize that when you find a place that welcomes your type of voice, so in this case, qualitative research, and equity and inclusion, keep going back to them. Right? They care about those things, and so I can go back and I know that this is a space that they're interested in. And you heard this also from, Dr. Maria as well, talking about finding where you can publish. Who wants to hear your voice? Where can your own research and your insight help? So I had moved to build the capacity in Kazakhstan and the region and the university, and the entire idea was to leave it to the local people. It was to build it for the people that were there, and I did that. And then I moved on. These students who are in the picture and my youngest child in front of me, they have moved on and they're leaders in their school systems. They've gone into other countries and continued with doctorate degrees. They've continued, and folks have started their own organizations and are rectors of universities. And so now I got to move on also. So this is the complexity, right, of positionality. And so today I live in southern Spain, in Andalusia. This is my hometown. And yet the flag that's representing me is up here, Norway. So I work hybrid with a university in Norway called Nord University. And I was drawn to this position for a similar reason as in Kazakhstan, as a chance to build the university and to build international capacity and research and collaboration and empowering and bringing people together. So all with this lens of equity and inclusion. So that brings me to today, right? And the chance to talk to you all about these ideas and to think about them together and how it applies to your own life and how you might want to take these ideas, reject these ideas, play with these ideas, and see what it means for you. So why tell you about myself? Do you feel that you know me any better? Have you learned anything about me? Yes, thank you. Yes, right. Maybe you have a better sense of what I might be publishing, researching. You might have a sense if you would be a good fit for collaboration. Maybe you have an idea of which communities I might work with, and again, ways in which maybe I could go and help you. We heard from Dr. Giannina that she could work in the public schools if she had the invitation. Oh, it's a good thing that we learned enough about her work that we could then see, oh yeah, let's get her to come to the public schools, right? That I got to see her presentation and I could think, oh, okay, I wonder how we could connect this to Norway and how we can think about the learning in these different ways or in online spaces, and right, it's getting my mind going. So back to positionality. So some definitions of positionality. Our background, the purpose of our research and our agenda affects our research. Another way to say this is that our positionality influences inquiry, which is another word for research, and those we work with. Positionality considerations need to be mapped across one's identity as a researcher, community member, and member of academia and society. These considerations foster an understanding of multi-part frameworks of interconnectivity. All a way to say, let's find out more about ourselves. The more that we know about ourselves, the more that we can enhance our own work. We can connect with people better. We can become, as we become more aware of ourselves, we're more accepting of ourselves, our, what we might consider flaws, things that we think are great strengths, or we can see that whole spectrum. And then we're more willing actually to accept other people. If we're okay with ourselves, and it doesn't matter what you say to me, what you think of my work, then I can say, okay, I value you as a person. I may or may not want to collaborate with you. That's good that we can learn about each other, but we can accept each other and we can work better to make the world a better place from whichever diverse perspectives we have. So you can think about your own positionality. If we had time, we would go into this. We could do a collaborative or cooperative research or cooperative learning kinds of things where, like a think, pair, share. Think to yourself, right? Where are you from? And I put it in quotation marks, from. So from, I struggle with that word, right? Where am I from? And this is something that in some places around the world, this comes up in the United States actually a lot, right? You see people of darker skin, or people who don't appear, who don't pass as white, are then asked, where are you from? Oh, you have such beautiful skin. Where are you from? I'm from Chicago, right? I'm from Massachusetts. No, but where are you really from? Here, right? So that idea of we're allowed to be from where we're from. And we don't have to have this confrontation of people questioning us. Yes, people will, and I was just saying that, right, we don't have to let it affect us, and yet it does, right, especially for certain communities. So we can think about then, what does it mean for us to be where are we from? What type of work do we do? What is important to us? And these questions will shift. This is what the purpose of critical self-reflection is, that they do shift over time. Where I determine where I'm from. For years upon years, so I am, and I didn't go into it, but I am Sephardic. That means that I am Spanish and Jewish, and I grew up in the United States, so I was being told that I didn't belong. I wasn't Spanish enough, I wasn't Jewish enough, I wasn't the right kind of Spanish, I wasn't the right kind of Jewish. And then, so all of these spaces, it didn't matter, right? I spoke the Spanish, it wasn't enough, right? It was never enough. So, okay, that's hardship. And yet it was so minimal. And yet it's generational trauma, right? My family, I trace my history from generations of forced migration. From centuries ago, from Spain and also from Germany, Austria, Russia, forced migration. It's a lot of trauma there of not belonging and being excluded and having to fear for our lives in reality. So what does that mean today? It brings me to today and to caring about people's voices. That's one reason at least why I care. I want people's voices to be heard. I'm safe today. I'm lucky, and I can tell myself that again and again. I'm safe. I don't have to take that history of trauma. Yes, I still have to be careful in different spaces and when I reveal that I'm Jewish. It's not safe to say that I'm Jewish everywhere. It's not safe to say that I'm Spanish. But now I live in Spain, and what does that mean to say that I'm from? So when people in Spain say, where are you from? I say, oh, I'm from Spain. Oh, but wait, when? From 1492, right? Long time ago, does that count? Again, so what does it mean for you? Where are you from? So your positionality, who are you on the personal level, the professional, what has informed your life? These are questions, right, that you can ask yourself, and you can have this PowerPoint, right, later. Again, questions and ideas to think, why are you doing the work that you're doing? The research, the teaching, the ministry. Why? So is positionality only important for qualitative research? Let's see, It's always important. It's always important. Positionality, understanding ourselves, and bias, right? So this is a very touchy word, right? People say, oh, no, there's no bias when you're just looking at numbers. Guess what? There's bias everywhere. And, right, this is in the asterisk, and it's okay. It's okay. It's okay to be biased. It's okay to have your perspective. And that's why it's important for you to know who I am. And so, depending on the type of research that you're doing, and we heard from Dr. Maria that when you are doing a fully quantitative study, most journals are looking for you to use third person, right? The research was conducted by a team, right? By a person, a researcher. In qualitative research, we tend to use and emphasize I did the research. I did it in this team of these people. This is our background. This is our perspective, so you understand who's behind it. And more, you're starting to see quantitative journals and mixed methods journals that are also asking for you to add positionality. Who are you? Maybe just 2 sentences, right? I'm from this place. This is my background. This is how I see the world. So, have you ever wondered if through your research you can make the world a better place? And maybe since most of you said that you weren't researchers yet, have you ever wanted as an individual to make the world a better place? I'm speaking to a whole, group of folks at this university. I would imagine that y'all are all here wanting to make the world a better place, or some community better, right? So this is where in particular that I wrote this book. That this book is about that, about people from all over the world that want to make the world a better place, who are using stories, and I'll share a couple here with you, about how they struggled and how they're working to make the world a better place, and how you can embed your own critical self-reflection and stories into work that thinks about inclusion, that thinks about equity in whatever direction that you are going. So a lens of equity, inclusion, and justice can be used throughout the research process, from first designing a study to conducting it, sharing findings, and then often we talk about that as the end of the research. But really, we can keep on going. And we heard this morning also, right, about these making alliances and connecting to the community. This is the purpose of research, right? It's not just for a publication. It's to make and to, hopefully, to make the world a better place, to make the communities better, to work with, it's not just the model that Giannina created, but it's actually to improve the learning, right? Oh, great, and with better learning, then students feel better, teachers feel better, the students can go out and do more meaningful work for them, whatever it is, right? The teachers have more time to be able to work with more people, and it continues and it evolves. So let's explore an idea. So research and publications can use creativity to help show experience and voice. So think for yourself, how does it feel to be included? You can think of a time at home. Try to identify one particular thing in your mind. Or sometime at school, whatever school level you're thinking of, your work in some kind of way. Maybe it's work in university or outside. So, do you still have your piece of paper or something in front of you? Yeah? Okay, so if you have a piece of paper, just draw a quick stick figure. What does inclusion look like? How did you feel in that moment you were included? What does it look like? Ten more seconds, right? So just real quick. Okay, you have something? Good. You're showing each other? Yep. Great. Okay, so I'll show you one that, I was looking for stick figures online, and I found one. That's for me. That's how I felt when I felt included, when an idea came to my mind. Smiling, happy, right? Like, that's how it felt for me. So drawing as part of research offers a chance not just to draw, but actually to get voices out there and to get a diverse set of people to be heard. So for instance, children with limited vocabulary. You want to work with young kids? Okay, we're going to ask them about their experiences in kindergarten. They're going to struggle to tell you, right? But if you ask them, can you draw me a picture of how does it feel when you get to school? Or, oh, this is a group of kids that they're struggling. Here's a map of the school. Put stickers in the places that you feel good, right? Hearts, and put X's in the places that you feel bad. That tells you something, right? So those are the different language backgrounds, different from the researchers. People with mental or physical disabilities who may struggle to articulate their experiences and thoughts. This is a picture of data from a multi-year grant-funded study on children's well-being in schools. So we did this in Kazakhstan. It was a 3-year study with the University of Cambridge as well in the UK. And this was through a focus group. And we had kids draw, so middle school students actually. So they were about 13 or 14 years old, and asking them about good things at school and bad things. And this was a study because Kazakhstan has one of the highest levels of teen suicide for young boys. And we wanted to understand what's going on and how can we support changes. So for instance, the good, and then they explained it. So they drew it, and then they also used their voice, right? So it wasn't the researcher just trying to understand, oh, look, here's, a stick figure holding a bar, right, or something. They explained, good is exercise. The flower is nature. The picture next to it, this is traditional Kazakh traditions are also good. Going outside and being with horses and in their village. The school itself is good. But the bad, too much electronics, smoking, alcoholism. There's alcoholism throughout the world, and in this community was known for it as well. And then as well as there being a factory there that put out noxious gases, right? That was also something. These are bad things that they struggled with. So then from there, we could understand more. So you could then think about also, so we talked about drawing, we talked about using stickers and a map. You could have people take photos. You could take photos. So what does inclusion look like in a photo? What might you take a picture of? Again, I then thought of some things. This is what came to my mind of how I would feel, right, of being included. I thought is, I've seen a couple cats on campus, I've seen some dogs, right? It's happy, right? To be included. When the pet is then welcomed in, they feel good. You may have other images. So photos are another creative method used in research to offer insight to lived experience. And it's publishable. This is an example of a photo voice study. It's a particular method that uses photos. During quarantine, during hard lockdown, mothers in academia were then working full-time, and those who had young children were then also suddenly homeschooling them. So they had these multiple jobs. They couldn't go anywhere. What were their experiences? Informally, I knew, and I heard and I saw on message boards, and I heard and I saw different messages also going to them that people would share in emails from all around the world saying things like, make sure, right, that when you go home, it's not a vacation. I know you're stuck at home, but it's not a vacation. Make sure that you answer emails within 5 minutes. Really? That's kind of hard when you have, here's an example, right? A child in front of your screen, right? And so to find out then, this is what the woman said, that this is a picture. She took this picture and shared it. We have not met in person. This was a study that was worldwide, and mother scholars shared images of what it meant to be a mother during quarantine, in lockdown, and with children who they were homeschooling. Daughter sitting on kitchen table looking at my computer screen while I tried to open my laptop for a quick moment. Her curls are beautiful, and what a metaphor. It represents how even if I try a little to work, she is always there and always first priority, and she's so curious and fun. I love being both a mother and being a professor. I am trying. Please acknowledge and accommodate for parents doing full-time child raising during a pandemic. We're here, we need family-friendly policy. So we have a website. People shared onto the website. Their images were shared. They got to see that they weren't alone. And we helped to give them a voice. It didn't solve everything around the world, but at least they had some voice. So, and we published on this as well in multiple different locations. So you could think then, right, we talked about inclusion, how does it feel to be excluded? And this is all data, right? It's all data and answers to research questions. The start to countless directions for research to address important questions in education and society. So we can think where are people feeling excluded? Example, in their teen years, you get a lot of information. Oh yeah, bullying, right? Oh, exclusion, okay. On the playground, how do we make playgrounds? How do we make these spaces safe? How does inclusion affect people differently? So then you could start to hear, oh, look, you can unpack this, you can start using surveys to then find, oh, how does it balance out based upon identified ethnicity, class or caste, gender identity, online spaces, different needs. And again, you can publish on it. So examples of my publications, and then examples of a bunch of textbooks that talk about using arts in research, and creativity in research, including in qualitative, quantitative, mixed methods, community methods. So theoretical framing, you can think about contemplative inquiry and learning, critical self-reflection, all of these. So you can have this, and I'm going to continue through just quickly so you get an idea, some additional ideas. This is an image from one of the stories in the book. So the experiences in this story exemplify what is referred to in adult education as transformative or transformational learning. Transformative learning is about change. It's dramatic, fundamental change in the way we see ourselves and in the world we live. So we can start with questions. Why is knowing ourselves important to justice-centered qualitative research or any research? How can I become more aware of myself to enhance my work, practice, and learning? We can engage our memory. There's more time, we would go ahead and we would delve into this, right? So do you remember a time for yourself in your learning journey, your research journey that stood out? Right? Why did it stand out? How did you feel, right? Why was that so momentous? Those momentous times, that's change. Something dramatic was happening, for good or bad, but something major was there. So we can integrate contemplative research, becoming more aware and open, deepening our attention and learning, recognizing this potential of critical self-reflection to build more equitable and inclusive practices and approaches. So let's look at sample stories of being, have you heard the phrase in the field? A little bit of nods. Yeah, in the field. Okay, you're out doing the research. Usually this is associated with qualitative research, in particular coming from anthropology and sociological backgrounds. So driving along highways to narrow gravel roads, I wonder when we will arrive. I sit in the back seat with our research assistant who provides an insider view of the culture and languages of the country. As it started to rain, our taxi bumped along the road, inching forward around standing water and rocks. I can feel my heart rate speed up as we pull up in front of the local school, where we will conduct our interviews and focus groups. Navigating the muddy path to the front of the school, a woman appears in the entrance. She wears an apron, hairnet, and slippers, and looks down sternly at my mud-strewn boots. I felt awkward and unsure, and wondered, what do I do now? This was one of my first research experiences, actually, in Kazakhstan, and what helped actually lead to this latest book, The Transformative Moments. What do you do? So here, I was prepared to do the research, but I showed up. I didn't have an extra pair of shoes. Turned out in Kazakhstan that you're expected to either have an extra pair of shoes or you would then be prepared to have not stepped in the muddy boots. So what happened, right? You want to learn more. Then it gives you insight for yourself. Well, what does this mean when you go into a local school? In what kind of ways are you showing up? How will you navigate when you're confronted with, no, you actually can't have that focus group in that room? I remember once being directed to, okay, well, you can either do it in this big open space or you can use the closet. Or come back another day. We had driven an hour and a half. People were ready and they were standing in the halls. Kids were missing their class. What do? You learn from others, and you make a decision, and you talk about it. So you can notice how you feel when you listen to the stories, and that feeling talk about as embodied research. And this is just a screenshot from a simple Google Scholar search from 2020, just seeing recent research on embodied research. So I just have about 4 minutes or so left. This is then a picture called Wrinkled, Worn, and Weighed Down. The narrative is about knowing ourselves as qualitative research, shared by Oliver Pido from the Philippines. She says, my recollection brings me back towards the end of the year 2019 and early 2020, when I was gathering data for my doctoral dissertation. I ventured onto a sensitive topic for my study, the topic of senior citizens and investment scams, a widely and highly rampant issue in a progressive region in the Philippines. Then she skipped ahead. When police raids and killings began, I did start to wonder if it was worth pursuing. I'm going to jump down to the bold. Who was I really to my participants? Was I worthy of their trust? What impact have I left my participants after I ended each interview? One woman interviewed was a jackfruit and banana vendor. At 80 years old, with her life savings tied around her waist, she continued to carry the heavy load of fruits on her head every day, as she could not afford any type of transportation. Then I jumped down. This is how she earned her living. Who will feed me when my children do not have work themselves? Near her store was the office of a new company that proclaimed investments in exchange for a surprisingly high rate of monthly returns. She confessed that several people had enticed her to invest in the scheme that offered 30% return per month. For a time, she managed to successfully refuse the erroneous offer. However, when a woman showed up saying she was a policeman's wife and that she herself had significantly improved her wealth because of the investment, the fruit vendor trusted her and decided to invest too. So why did the fruit vendor finally give in to the get-rich plan, the scheme? And then Alavir, she was thinking to herself, who was I to her participants? Thanks. How do they perceive me? What moral responsibility do I carry, knowing that there are those who are reaching out to me for help? Those don't have clear answers. And so then it goes back, right? What we're talking about, critical self-reflection, to learn to be vulnerable, to see the learning within ourselves, to build and grow, to be willing to ask those questions. Oh my gosh, I'm interviewing an 80-year-old woman who gave her life savings away, right? The shame that woman was carrying, but then to trust the researcher to talk about it. Olivier goes on to say, does she even publish about it? Can she publish? Does she feel ethically responsible either to say something or not, right? How is she best protecting her participants and helping move forward with these ideas, and why is she doing it? So the power of self-reflection, sometimes called reflexivity, I'm going to just continue through so you can see these ideas, exemplars of researchers that you can look into. Linda Toohey Weiss Smith, these are folks that I have leaned on and who have contributed to my books in different ways. Donna Mertens, Norma Rahm, Tony Onwegbuzi. So to bring everything back around, Bell Hooks says, my hope emerges from those places of struggles where I witness individuals positively transforming their lives and the world around them. And John Dewey says, we do not learn from experience, we learn from reflecting on experience. So if you were to reflect today, right, we can take 10 seconds, right, for you just to take a breath and to think, what did I learn? Just in this last, 40 minutes. We can think about, what did you learn about yourself or about research? What do you want to explore more about? Who might you want to reach out to? So the takeaways then of qualitative inquiry as transformative lifelong learning. So this is, right, this fancy way of bringing things together, talking about equity, inclusion, and justice and research, praxis, there's practice and research together. Critical self-reflection, contemplative inquiry, this is the writing is one form of it, breathing, yoga, dance, listening to music, prayer, or all types, actually, of contemplative inquiry. They can help us become more aware of our positionality, transform our learning about our research, practice, and pedagogy, and offer important insights and directions for justice-centered research, publication, and community. So thank you so much for your time, your engagement, thinking about these ideas. Feel free to connect on LinkedIn, right? I can help connect you to folks and communities if you're interested. If not, find your people that fit for you. Find your community, they're out there, that the world of research is here for you and the community is as well. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Anna. We have a little bit time, so we have a few minutes for questions for
Great.
you.
Thank you.
Who is interested to address a question, or two or three? It depends on the time.
Yeah, I see that.
Please.
Yeah. Thank you for your question. I don't know if everyone heard, but, right, so this idea of making the world a better place, right? That does this relate back to the idea of Jesus, and you're saying in terms of improving people's lives, right? So when I go into this deeper, and thank you for bringing this topic up, and when you read my different work, I tend to also put quotes on better, right? Making a better place, or I want to make myself a, quote, better researcher. We all have our own definitions for what counts as better, right? What does it mean to improve people's lives? I might have I'm sure each of us actually have our own idea of what would improve somebody's life. The main thing, so for me, I come about it as better in terms of, I use the terms equity, inclusion, and justice, and that it is then, for me, about making people's lives better. The difference, though, is that sometimes, in research in the past, and some people's views have been, well, look, I see that community, they clearly, you know, the kids are outside and the kids are very dirty. They need to learn how to clean themselves up, right? I'm the outsider coming in and saying, you need to clean yourself, right? Not to point, right? You need to clean yourself, right? And instead of my actually going to the community and asking them, here, I'm a researcher, I'm here to help, I'm a teacher, I'm, you know, a theologian. How can I help you? What do you need? And they say, oh yeah, people keep on saying that we need to learn how to clean ourselves. We know how to clean ourselves, but the water is dirty. You know, we need a filtration system. We don't have the money for it. We know how to make it. We made this one, right? And this is a real example, right? So it's then working with the communities and researching with instead of on. So I'm not going and doing research onto this other person or deciding for them what would make your lives better. This relates back to a question also that we heard earlier about the LGBTQ communities as well. Well, unless you're part of that community, how would I know what is going to make their lives better, right? I need to talk to them. And so thank you for your question.
Okay, do we have another question?
We used our time.
Yes.
Yeah.
Maybe if you are more curious to ask Dr. Anna about her research, you should approach her during the tea break, which is around 5 p.m. this afternoon, before the main or the keynote presentation, which will stop or end the meeting today. So, regarding all this topic that you have presented, we should not forget that we are living under the constructivism paradigm where the knowledge is co-created, but as most of us are Adventist or Christian people, we should be very clear with our own worldview, our positionality, our principles, and for this reason, in qualitative research, we have this space to express our positionality, and this is a very positive point in qualitative research. Thank you again, Anna, my friend.
Oh, thank you.
This is a certificate of appreciation for your presentation, and we are very happy that you could come.
Thank you so much. I actually have one thing for you as well.
Oh.
This is a book that I would like to give to you to continue to carry the power of qualitative research and showing people the utility and the importance around the world.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
My pleasure.
So at 2 p.m., actually in 4 minutes, we'll meet in the same rooms as before the lunch break, E1, E2, and E3 for the parallel sessions. And after that, we'll have the tea break. You have the program, so we'll follow the program. And at the end, we'll have Dr. Safari who will present the ending keynote presentation, so do not miss that one. He will come directly from the airport and will be here, hopefully praying on time for the keynote presentation. And after his presentation, we'll have the closing ceremony for our session, Education and Social Sciences section. So have a good afternoon and do not miss any of the presentations that you are willing to attend.